Thank you for joining us as we present the body-worn cameras to the public and to you. They're being deployed this week, and we wanted to make that announcement. In addition, we may be touching on the officer-involved shooting from last weekend. We'll ask the Chief to speak, but first we'd like to... Pardon? We don't. Yeah. There'll be no amplification here within the... Can you hear me in the back? No. Okay. Well, just use a... We'll project. We have professional speakers here. Please welcome Mayor Jones.
Thanks, Gene, and I'll try to talk loud enough so that everybody can hear me. We're all aware of the discussions that have been taking place around the country about police brutality and excessive force, and we also are aware of the challenges that many cities have faced. Oftentimes, public opinion is that officers don't use the right amount of force, and there have been many questions raised around the country about fair treatment and accountability. But let me emphasize that in our city, interactions between police and officers and civilians have been going very well. I'm very clear that our community policing model has served us well. We think that we're getting it right here in the city of Richmond, and we want to keep it that way. Today we're here to tell you that soon Richmond police officers will be equipped with body-worn cameras. These purchases have been made, and training for the officers has begun as a matter of fact. It's an important undertaking for our city, and that's why we wanted to be here today, because we want to build on the good relationships that we have established between the police and the community. We see these cameras as a positive tool in our toolbox. We see these cameras as a way to increase transparency and to increase confidence in the criminal justice process. The cameras will allow us to collect more evidence. The cameras will allow us to know better who is involved and who is not involved, and just give us a better idea of what is going on. Now, these resources will help our officers in their work to provide a safe and secure environment for everyone, officers and civilians alike. And I believe that the cameras can deter some of the kinds of concerns that we hear about around the country. What we want is for everybody to feel safe. We want for everybody to feel secure. The cameras are pro-civilian and pro-police at the same time. Now, this is not an inexpensive undertaking, but we worked with Richmond Police and the City Council and identified the resources that have gotten us here today. And in many cities, after body cameras have been introduced, there's been a significant reduction in the use of force incidents and a reduction in complaints about police. And we hope that that will be the case for us here today. So while this isn't an answer to everything we need or an answer to everything our officers need, we certainly think that it's a step in the right direction. We believe that it's a positive addition to our efforts to make sure that we are serving our community well. And so now Chief Durham is going to come and give you the specifics on the cameras. Chief?
Before I go into the cameras, I'd like to just talk about the officer-involved shooting that occurred on this past Sunday. So here's the background. Late Saturday night, officers received an assignment from their supervisor that the pastor from the First African Church located in the 2700 block of Haynes Avenue notified them that there was a prostitute loitering on the church property. Officers arrived on the scene shortly after midnight. That was Sunday morning, and they immediately observed an adult male walking within the block. The male sees the officers approaching in their vehicle, and he immediately changes directions and walks south on Miller Avenue. Officers noted that the male was using his hand and making an adjustment to his jacket pocket, at which time he uses his arms to press up against his jacket pocket. Based on the officer's experience, this action is consistent with the concealing of a weapon. The officers exit their vehicle and ask the male if they could talk with him. The male flees south on Miller Avenue, and the officers give chase. The suspect stops beside a bush next to the Garland Baptist Church and reaches down as if he was hiding something or picking something up. He then continuing running south on Norwood Avenue and back again towards Haynes Avenue into an alley. The subject reaches back with his left arm and begins firing a weapon, striking our officer twice in the leg. Our officer returns fire. An officer goes over the radio and announces, "Shot fired, we had an officer down." The suspect runs between two houses and officers lose sight of him. Additional officers arrive on the scene and immediately establishes a perimeter. Our K-9 officers arrive on the scene and begin to track. The suspect was located lying underneath a porch in the rear of a home in the 2700 block of Haynes Avenue. That suspect was identified as Keith Vernon Smith, a 6-time convicted felon, and he was apprehended with a 9mm firearm. The suspect did not sustain any injuries during this encounter. Our officer was immediately transported to a local hospital where he was treated for his injuries. Our officer was released yesterday from the hospital and is currently at home recovering. We ask that the community keep your officer in your prayers for a speedy recovery. As with any other crimes, we are not releasing the name of the officer at this time because he is the victim of a crime. Smith is initially charged with aggravated assault against a law enforcement officer, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. The RPD, along with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, are still actively investigating this shooting. In the interest of judicial efficiency, we made an arrest on the warrant of aggravated assault to bring Mr. Smith under our control, while the Commonwealth attorneys continue their work on this case to seek an indictment for attempted capital murder of a law enforcement officer. This is important because this is the 4th officer that has been shot in the line of duty in the past 13 months. And I think we all can agree that this is disturbing. As I've stated on numerous occasions, the men and women of the Richmond Police Department report for duty each day to provide the highest quality of police service with excellence and integrity. However, we do not know what's in store from us from radio call to radio call, assignment to assignment, or the next challenge that we may face during a citizen encounter. I'll take any questions at this time. All right. I'm sorry.
You had mentioned, I know this month you're rolling out the Guns 250, and part of that is getting illegal guns off the street. This man you said was a 6-time convicted felon, obviously shouldn't have been in possession of a firearm. Can you just talk about the relationship between what you're rolling out and this incident?
Yeah, I think it's important. The mayor and I announced a couple of weeks ago that 802 firearms were recovered from the streets of Richmond last year in the hands of bad people. We're going to be implementing the Gun 250. Again, members who call with information of individuals who are armed with handguns or know where firearms are located can receive up to $250 for that tip information. We're excited about it. We're just putting in the final touches in it, and we'll be announcing that real soon to kick off of that initiative.
Sorry, one more. We're hearing reports that usually you would go see an officer within 24 hours after they're shot. That was not the case this time. Can you address that at all?
Say that again?
We're hearing reports that typically after an officer-involved shooting, you as the chief would go visit that officer in the hospital within 24 hours after the incident. We're hearing that that was not the case this time. Is that true?
That's misinformation. I was at the hospital yesterday morning seeing, and he was in great spirits. Okay.
All right. Chief, real quick, what part would a body camera played in this particular incident? It's all not only protect the public, but also the officers as well. I mean, what would this incident?
I'm glad you asked that question. As we get ready to talk about body-worn cameras, I'll answer your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Come on up, please. So now we'll talk about the body-worn cameras. Ultimately, the shooting of our officer highlights the critical nature of getting these body-worn cameras deployed to our officers. As the mayor pointed out, we had an officer who was shot Sunday. If that officer would have had a camera on Sunday morning, it would have provided valuable recording of the incident. It may have even served to deter or dissuade that individual from choosing to pull the trigger in the first place. That said, we look forward to deploying these cameras to members of the 4th Precinct today and on Thursdays. Again, I thank the mayor for putting the necessary monies in the budget to purchase 200 body-worn cameras. We will now be able to level the playing field. Having these cameras will allow us to tell our side of the story through video. We have spent many months researching and preparing. We want to ensure that we do this the right way. That is why we had a sensible and thoughtful policy in place prior to deploying the cameras. A number of community members and other organizations assisted us in crafting this policy. Ms. Claire Gastanagua, she's the Executive Director of the ACLU of Virginia. Ms. Netta Thompson, who's here with us, the President of the Richmond branch of the NAACP, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, our faith leader, who has a representative here, and many other members of the community. The general order will be made available on our website. As I told our community partners who helped us to get where we are today, the policy will be updated and adjusted as we learn from the deployment and the use of the cameras. Ultimately, we know that these cameras will be an invaluable tool. In other cities that have deployed cameras, the initial impact appears to be a significant reduction in complaints, effective in reducing violent interactions, and incidents leading up to the use of force. Also, the cameras have been effective in identifying police misconduct. They change behavior and they provide increased accountability. We have a great relationship with the community that we serve here. The body-worn cameras will help us to build on that relationship by increasing trust, improving services, and enhancing the public safety in the city of Richmond. There are 40 officers from the 4th Precinct who volunteered for this initial phase. They will be testing 2 types of cameras, the Taser Exxon Flex and the Taser Exxon Body cameras. We have received 20 Exxon Flex cameras for the first 10 officers to deploy today. The Exxon 2 body cameras are brand new model and they will arrive within the next few weeks. Today, the officers are receiving 4 hours of training in the operation and use of our cameras and our general order. We'll be conducting a 30-day initial review of the technology. This will allow us to access the operation of the 2 camera systems, assess the operation of the 2 camera system, get the officers' thoughts and feedback, and review our general order. We would then begin to deploy additional cameras to the other precincts. Right now, I want to show you the cameras that we're deploying. This is the Exxon Flex. It's worn on the head, the collar, or even on the lapel. And this here is the Exxon Body Camera 2, just worn and mounted on the chest. We created a short video to show the community what actually looks like a video recording looks like from the officer's perspective.
Yeah, with Virginia 2018 X-ray Sam Charles. You occupied 1 time via Jefferson and Grace. Good afternoon, ma'am. Officer Captain Chambers from police. Just want to let you know that this traffic stop is being recorded, okay? All right, ma'am, the reason why I stopped you is it appears your license plates are expired.
Oh, okay.
All right, you got your driver's license registration, please? All right, I'm going to go check on this, ma'am, and I'll be right back with you, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, ma'am. If you can just do me a favor, try to get the DMV or whatever you got to do, get those plates taken care of, okay? All right, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay. Some of the questions that we know are going to be asked, and again, just want to thank all those who have participated, especially our community members and organization in crafting this policy. Officers will start the body-worn camera recording as soon as the radio call for service is initiated or the Department of Emergency Communications posts that information of assignment on the mobile data terminal in the patrol vehicle or at the beginning of any self-initiated police action. Regardless of the number of officers on the scene of a call for service, if the member is equipped with a body-worn camera, he or she is to turn that camera on. Officers are required to inform individuals that they are being recorded and will make the following statement. For example, I am Officer Alfred Durham, and this encounter is being recorded. The body-worn camera shall continue to record until the officer has completed his or her report and has returned to service, the conclusion of the officer's involvement in any event, and when directed to do so by a supervisor and in certain areas of a medical treatment facility. Recordings shall be classified in one of three ways: as evidentiary, non-evidentiary, and training. Non-evidentiary recordings shall be retained for a period not longer than 90 days, after which it will automatically be purged from the server. All video files will be securely stored in the accordance with the with the records and retention schedule issued by the Library of Virginia. The Richmond Police Department goal in deployment of body-worn cameras is simply transparency. As often, I state that transparency leads to accountability, and accountability leads to legitimacy and trust in the community, especially the people that we serve. I believe that both my words and actions since I've become chief have proven that. I am also duty-bound to protect the privacy rights and concerns of all those with whom we interact in instances where the law or the public safety requires privacy protections. This is all new territory for us and the community, so I ask that we walk this path together. But I assure you that I remain committed to releasing the video when it does not jeopardize the integrity of an investigation or the privacy rights of victims, witnesses, or other involved parties. I will now answer any questions that you may have.
How many total cameras do you have currently, Chief?
40,
40. How many do you anticipate getting?
200.
200 by a particular time period?
Hopefully before, I would say, May.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Oh.
Can I ask a real quick question about the technology? The video gets sent in?
The video is uploaded at the end of every shift. And again, please, I encourage you, again, we're posting the policy on our website, but at the end of every shift, the officers, and we would encourage you to come down and look at the models, and Lieutenant Jeff McKinney can explain. He's our body-worn coordinator for the department. At the end of each shift, the camera is put in a docking station where it's charged, and the data is uploaded into the server on evidence.com.
How much does each camera cost?
We've broken down probably about, I'll get that information. I'll get you that information.
Do we have a total about how much either?
Friday, what was the total on that? About a little over, we'll get you that information, a little over 300,000.
For the 40 or the 200?
The 200, yes. Plus for the storage is also included in it.
Yeah, just can you address storage, because that is a concern. I know you said there are guidelines, but how long would you typically store something like this? When is it deemed, okay, we don't need this anymore?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, 90 days if it's non-evidentiary. Everything else it depends on the course, especially if it's a criminal investigation. It has to take its course through the judicial process to the successful conclusion of that criminal proceeding.
Knowing that officers have to let the civilian know that it's being recorded, does that particular civilian have the right to say, I prefer that you not record?
No, it's our policy. And I think if we just educate the public, I think it's in the best interest of society, the public and society as a whole, being in the police department and the general public, that of those encounters that we're having with the community, that, you know, I would recommend. And I think the most important thing that I'm excited. I went to the training this morning just to speak to the troops, and they're excited. Again, we finally get a chance to tell our story from beginning to end. And I think that's the most important part. Quite often, some of you all send me captions of videos, you know, after the fact something has happened, officers are trying to make an arrest and say, how could your officers do that? Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the beginning of the video. But I think this is important for us, again, as a community.
Can a video if they are involved?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's in the policy.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And the, how often will you be reviewing the footage? Is it something you're gonna do on a day-to-day basis, or only when there's an incident that's causing?
That's a good question. Again, our body-worn coordinator, he would be random audits. What I don't want to look at, for my office to believe that this is a camera that we're putting on them to monitor their every move. That's unfair to them. What we want to do, especially if there's a complaint, the individual complainant can come in and we'll sit down right then and there and they can review that video. As part of ongoing investigations, that information will be readily available for download to look at the video sitting at a computer with the complainant.
Why is it a requirement to notify someone when they're being recorded?
Well, other jurisdictions don't, but again, with the help of our partners here, we thought that was very important. We don't want no surprises. We want folks to know, because also that can de-escalate a situation. We're just trying to build better relationships with the community that we have.
Did y'all talk about what happens if they don't tell a person? Is
That's in the policy. Now, there may be instances where an officer can't tell them. You know, they may get out and have to get into a situation separating folks involved in an altercation or something. But again, there's a reporting requirement for that in their report. They have to justify, make an indication and justify why they didn't turn the camera on.
All right, thank you. There is a class going on Chamberlain Avenue at 4th Precinct. If you'll let me know if you want to go by there and see that, I'll escort you over there. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.